Jackson Radio Show.
Hey fellow patriots, you're listening to the Kevin Jackson Show on KJRadio.com. I'm your guest host, Liz Matory. Please follow me at Liz Matory on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks again for checking in. Might as well talk about the Pennsylvania election. It's whatever. Of course, the Democrat Party is like totally excited, and of course the media is talking about how the Republicans should be so upset. There are several different things that we also have to be mindful of. Number one, you can only steal elections when they're close, folks. So if you see a 50-50 split when it comes to an election, that means that there was a lot of chicanery going on. Democrats are notorious for stealing things, particularly elections. And case in point, I know it's happening here in Maryland. It's probably happening in your state too. But what they're doing is they're encouraging people to register to vote when they're not eligible to vote. And especially if you do it in huge droves, people aren't usually able to find out about it until too late. That's one issue that we have. And of course, there's good old gerrymandering. Again, Maryland, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Illinois, I think, are the biggest states that have been really gerrymandered to horrible ends. And of course, you know, the Republicans, they say, oh, the Republicans do it too. But the interesting thing when the Democrat Party gerrymanders a state, the lines of the gerrymander are a lot more severe because they have to dig into hyper Democrat areas, more so suburban and urban areas, to pull out Democrat votes in order to negate the suburban and rural votes or the more conservative votes. So this is what happened here in Pennsylvania. Of course, we had a special election, so this is really only a temporary thing until the next election that's in November. So I don't know if the Republican Party is going to contest it necessarily, but you know, if you have people who are obviously, everybody on the Democrat side is motivated to vote against President Trump. It's a what's it called? They want to send a message to President Trump that we don't want you as our president, so we're going to go and retaliate and vote for this random dude who's 33 years old. He's not that random, guys. If you look at his backstory, none of these people, they're all handpicked. This guy is, 23 years old, as I said. He is, his father, apparently, and look at it, if you go onto the Wikipedia page, of course, it's so funny. They've already said that he's like the elect, like the congressperson elect. Apparently, he was born in D.C., so that's also suspect. But his grandfather was the Democrat majority leader in the Pennsylvania State Senate back in the day under Robert Carey, right? And one later was the Secretary of Legislative Affairs. So, he's establishment, folks. They're trying to make a case about this guy as this young, up-and-coming, progressive, leader, but he's establishment. He's another establishment hack. He's just third generation. So that's that. Also, Saccone is also an establishment Republican. I don't know very much about him because I haven't really been following much attention, but if you look at the district, it has been gerrymandered to a point where, again, to make sure that you have more Democrat votes than not, in order to make sure that it's a weighted sort of experience. Now, I think that Pennsylvania is allowing for their courts to draw the lines. And again, whenever a few people get to choose, always be worried about them being corrupted. How are these judges chosen? Are they going to be unbiased? Again, I wish that I didn't have to speak so negatively or so, I guess, so critically about the judiciary, but unfortunately, you're legislating from the bench, all these different things that I used to hear, again, as, a former Democrat. I used to be like, oh yeah, they're just making it up, like they're not really legislating from the bench. Yeah, most of them are now. I remember, this is a little sidebar, so I told you I was a kind of an activist, not a full-on activist, but I was involved in nonprofit stuff on the Democrat side for a while, and I worked for an organization called the American Constitution Society when I was in law school. I interned there. I also interned at the ACLU and the Justice Department, all that. So anyway, we're talking about how they planned this all out. So in 2005, we had this conference called the Constitution in 2020. So this is again in 2005. They're already having meetings back in 2005 about what they want the Constitution to not only look like, but they purposefully stack the courts with liberal judges. We always focus on the Republican side, on the representative side for Congress, president, but they specifically thought that it was important to focus on the judges' side, because some of them are lifetime appointments. And so how do you really control precedent and you control law? Yes, you pass laws in our legislative branch, but you make sure that it continues on through the judicial system. So we have to be careful when we want to make sure that whoever is redistricting and redrawing these lines are doing it in the most unbiased way, and the most nonpartisan way. Is it going to be an issue for judges to redo the lines? I don't know. We have to be mindful. Another thing I want to flag about this election is, first of all, it's still 50-50. That's not a Democrat mandate. I don't know why. Well, shoot, you all know why that they're trying to make it a big deal. But we on the right, or we, again, right of left, have to be careful about complacency. A lot of y'all voted for the first time in 2016. Again, elections happen all the time, and what they call these midterm elections, these are what really kind of swings the pendulum to another side. Traditionally, again, this is not a traditional time of our politics, but traditionally, the elections between the presidentials, people tend to not vote as much. So when you have low turnout, you can win easier. So this, I think, as of, it was 113,000 people, 813 voted for Lamb, and then 186 voted for Saccone. That's the same amount of people. So again, we on the right have to make sure that voting matters. I know that they are registering, as I said before, people who aren't eligible to vote. We have to be mindful of what they're doing. We really, really have to watch out. Be back in a moment.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.